Good morning and welcome to the EQ Skills Clinic. If this is your first time joining me, I'd love to introduce myself. My name is Dr. Shamala, podcast host, media expert for national TV, and founder of the EQ Code, where we help high performing women transform their relationships so that they can execute fully on their mission. If you've been hanging around here for a little while, you will notice that we have a slightly different format for our EQ Skills Clinic. I'm using a different platform. And so if you are, whether you're joining live or whether you're watching the replay, I would love for you to drop a comment, drop an emoji. You will just need to give the platform permission for you to leave that comment, and I will certainly pick it up, whether it's during the broadcast or later on today. So please, either way, just leave a comment below for me and let me know that you are watching. If you are watching the replay, just give me a hashtag replay so I know that as well. So we've also changed the time of our live show. I used to go live every Thursday at 11 a.m. and we've just switched it so that I am going live at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So we're going live just about an hour earlier. And so just be aware of that. We will definitely post it in the Facebook group so you're aware of the change in time. Again, if it is one of your first times joining me for the EQ Skills Clinic, I want you to know and understand that we talk about a few different areas of emotional intelligence during this time together. It's an opportunity for me to share some teaching, some insight, and always some practical skills and strategies that you can begin applying right away. So today we are going to be focusing on mindset skills. And today we're going to be talking and exploring a concept that comes up often with my clients. It comes up often in my own life, and it comes up often in this community as well. And the concept that I want to talk with you about today is the idea of, how do we let go of outcomes when the outcome really matters? So how do we let go of outcomes when the outcome really matters, when that outcome is really important, when it is something that is, sort of near and dear to your heart? It's what I consider a big ticket item in your life. How do we actually let go of outcomes when that outcome is something that is really important to you? So interestingly enough, when I think about all the different skills that I teach my clients and that I work with my clients on, letting go of outcomes is probably hands down the most powerful mindset skill that I teach women. So that's the context first. I want you to understand that the idea of being able to let go of outcomes and work towards letting go of outcomes is actually a mindset skill. So we want to be really aware of that. That I think is very, very important. It's an important place for us to start our conversation and to start our discussion today. So the truth is, and I'm sure this is going to come as no surprise to you, the truth is that we never had control over outcomes to begin with. And I'm emphasizing the word outcome because it is important that you understand that there is a distinction between having control over outcomes and being able to influence outcomes, right? So the truth is we've never really had control over outcomes to begin with. The challenge, though, or what often happens from a mindset perspective, is that when we think about our cognitive structure, we often tend to ruminate on things that we can't control. And what do I mean by that? We take a concept, an idea, a desire, a want, a need, and whether we have control over it or not, what can happen is we can begin to turn that idea over and over and over in our head multiple times. And this can lead to increased stress, worry, and anxiety. This is what I would call rumination, right? And so what happens is because on a subconscious level, our mind knows, for example, perhaps that we can't control something in particular. What ends up happening is that we ruminate on it. We continue to turn it over in our minds again and again and again. I am just pausing here to have a look. Sorry, guys. It looks like my video is a little blurry. So if you are watching I'd love for you to tell me if the video is looking blurry to you. It's looking very blurry on my screen, but I'm not sure why. But I will keep going here. Okay. All right. So while we can influence outcomes, and this is the critical concept that I want you to understand, we can influence outcomes. We can't actually control outcomes. So we can influence outcomes, but we cannot control outcomes. And understanding this crucial difference, that's what's going to make a massive difference in your life. Maria, thank you so much. I don't know if there's anything I can do about that. But you let me know if there is something I can do. Otherwise, I will just keep going if I don't hear from you, Maria. Yeah, it's very bizarre. I'm not sure why it is so blurry, but it is. So anyway, Maria, if you're still here, let me know what you think. Otherwise, I will just continue here. I will just carry on. All right. Very bizarre, guys. I don't know what's going on with the video here on Facebook. Okay, so we can influence outcomes, but we can't really control them. And we really need to understand the difference between these two concepts. We need to understand the difference between being able to influence and control, and what our mind is going to want to do, especially when we are stressed, when we are anxious, when we're overwhelmed, when it's something that's really important to us. Our mind is going to want to really control that outcome. Yeah. Okay. Other than restarting. Yeah. Okay. Maybe I will just keep going then. Because I don't want to stop the teaching for today. So sorry about that, guys. Maybe it'll fix itself a little later on. So our mind is going to want to have a level of control. This is a perfect example. I'm doing this Facebook Live and my video is all blurry. And of course, there's this part of me right now that is going, I want to control this. I want to control this. And I know I can't control this particular outcome. We can influence outcomes, though. There are choices that I could make even right now in this moment, right? I can make choices around what I do with the blurry video. Do I stop the teaching? Do I start over again? Do I just let it go, ride and deal with the fact that I've got a blurry video right now, right? So we can influence outcomes, but we can't control them, right? And I think where we often get stuck when it comes to self-regulation, when it comes to really being able to let go of outcomes, is what about when those outcomes really matter to us? So often what my private clients will ask me is, I totally get your concepts around letting go of outcomes. I completely understand that I couldn't control them to begin with. I can understand how when I focus on things that I can't control, how it increases my anxiety and decreases my confidence. But what about when the outcome really matters to us? What about if it's something like my child's entry into the school of their choice? What if it's, a request for more affection from my partner? What if it's my mother respecting a boundary that I've put in place? What if what we're talking about are really big ticket items? What if these are things that are really, really important to us? What happens then? What do we do then? And here's the thing. The truth is, regardless of how important an outcome is to us, regardless of how, big that item is for us, and regardless of what that big ticket item is, the reality remains the same. We truly can't control what happens on the other end of our requests. I'm going to say that again, because really, if I could say there's one skill that I work on with people again and again, and we sort of keep circling back to, and we keep coming back to, the one piece that keeps coming up for people is this idea that, really and truly, I can make a request, but letting go of the outcome on the other side of that request is very, very difficult. So what do we do, right? How do we navigate our life? How do we navigate our relationships? How do we navigate our mindset with confidence when outcomes, particularly the really important ones, are unpredictable? What happens when these items that are really important to us, or these relationships that are really important to us, we make these requests and we know that on the other side of that, we can't necessarily control what happens. How can we actually navigate these situations from a mindset perspective so that we're not flooded with worry and anxiety and all of those sorts of things? So the first thing I would say is you're going to start by, I'm a firm believer of taking pen to paper, right? So I'm a firm believer of grab a notebook, grab a pad of paper, whatever it is. Maria says, I had the exact situation with my oldest son not getting into the high school of his choice for his next year, knowing he was more than qualified. Exactly. This is a perfect example. And it's an example of not only do parents struggle with this, but children and teens struggle with this as well. And it's understandable, right? Because these are decisions, or these are outcomes that can have a really significant impact on our future, on our life. So of course we're going to be tied to the outcome, right? What I want you to think about is, regardless of how important that outcome is to you, you're going to take pen to paper and you're going to create two lists. You're going to make two lists. And I like that Maria brought up her son, because this is an exercise we can do with our children. We can do this with our teens. And I certainly encourage you to try it for yourself first. So the very first thing you want to do is you're going to take that sheet of paper, you're going to split it in two, you're going to make two lists. On the left-hand side, what you're going to do is you're going to identify all of the things that are within your control with regards to that particular situation, okay? So on the left-hand side of the sheet of paper, you're going to write down all of the things that are within your control. And here's the important thing to remember about this component of the exercise. There's two things that are important to remember. Number one is that the only two things you have control over are your thoughts and your actions. So on this sheet of paper, on the left-hand side, the only things that you're actually going to record are your thoughts or your actions. Those are the only two things that you have control over. You can control what you think, how you think about a situation, what you say to yourself about a situation, and you can control what you do, your choices, your actions, your behaviors. So on the left-hand side of that sheet of paper, you would write down all the things related to your thoughts or your actions. And again, if you're coaching, let's say your child or your teen to do this exercise, you would brainstorm that with them. Okay, so that's the first thing that's important to remember, is that there are only two areas of control that you have: your thoughts and your actions. The second thing that's really, really important to remember with this exercise is you need to be creative. You need to think outside the box when you are identifying the things that you can control with regards to a situation that you are really worried about, or that you're stressed about, or a high pressure situation. And why do I say that you have to get creative and think outside the box? Because what happens when we feel out of control, when the outcome of something is really important to us, what happens is that we begin to feel really anxious about it, and our thinking becomes very rigid. Our thinking becomes very, very rigid, and it becomes difficult for us to actually think creatively, to think outside the box, for us to generate solutions, for us to generate ideas. That's often what happens when we get stuck in focusing on things that we can't control. So it's important, when you're making that list of all the things that you can control, that you allow yourself to be creative, that you allow yourself to really think outside the box for that. Okay. Now, the second thing you're going to do on that same sheet of paper, on the right-hand side, you are going to list all of the things that are outside of your control with regards to this particular situation. You're going to list all of the things that are truly beyond your control, all of those possibilities, all of those contributing factors, all of those, all the layers related to that particular situation that are outside of your control. You want to list all of those down on the right-hand side of the sheet of paper, and you want to be really thorough about it. And what you'll find is that most often, like 99% of the time, what you're worrying about are the things on the right-hand side of that piece of paper. You're worrying about the things that you cannot change and that you cannot control. Okay. That is 99% of the time. If you find yourself feeling stressed, if you feel like a tightness in your chest, if you feel a heaviness on your shoulders, if there's, you feel a knot in the pit of your stomach, if you were to do this exercise 99% of the time, you will find that what you are focused on, what you're worrying about, are all of those things that you cannot change and that you cannot control. And the more we focus on the things that we cannot change and that we cannot control, the more anxious we become, the more stressed we become, the more overwhelmed we become. Okay. And it really eats away at our confidence. So now you've got two lists. You've got a list of things that you can control. You've got a list of things that you can't control. Now, step 2 is you're going to decide what action you are going to take from list number 1. So this is the list on the left-hand side of the paper. What action are you going to take? What, from the things that you can change and from the things that you can control, what will you do? What action will you take? I want to encourage you to move into action when you think about this particular list of things that you can do. You're going to choose something that's going to feel empowering to you. You're going to choose something that might move the needle forward a little bit. You're going to choose something that perhaps is just going to allow you to access a greater sense of calm around this particular situation. Then the next thing you're going to want to do is look again at list number 2, which is on the right-hand side of your sheet of paper, and you're going to commit to moving towards acceptance of the items that you cannot change or control. I'm going to unpack that a little bit, because the idea of acceptance is not something that happens overnight. I was doing a teaching inside another group, I think it was just last week, and we talked about this idea that accepting those things that we can't control, especially when those things are really, really important to us. We talked about how difficult that is, right? How difficult it is to accept those things that we cannot control, how difficult it is to really get our heads wrapped around. Let's say, I've made this request of somebody that I really love, could be my partner, and you know what? He or she is not meeting that need for me. That's difficult to accept. That's hard to accept. There's a lot of emotion, a lot of grief, maybe sadness that can come with acceptance. There's a lot of emotional work that we may need to do to move towards acceptance. But it's critical. It's so critical, because unless we make a movement towards acceptance of the things we cannot control, we will remain stuck. We will remain mentally stuck. We will remain anxious. We will remain in the state of stress, pressure, and overwhelm. So that movement towards acceptance, I'll often share quite transparently with my clients. It's, even for myself, it can be a moment to moment movement, right? So there are times in my own life and certain situations in my own life where one moment or one day I can feel like, okay, I have a sense of peace because I've moved towards acceptance of this particular area that's very difficult for me. And then there are other moments, and it's the exact same scenario, exact same situation, and I absolutely don't want to accept it. And I'm back at ruminating. I'm back at focusing on the things that I can't control, wishing that I could control them, right? So that's why it's really critical to think about the work of acceptance around those things in our life that we cannot change or control, as a movement towards. We want to move towards acceptance of the things that we cannot change and control. I want you to remember something, though. It doesn't mean that there's nothing you can do. I don't ever want you to think that when I say that a movement towards acceptance is going to be really healthy for your mindset, it's going to build that mental resilience, it's going to build that confidence. I don't ever want you to mistake that for me meaning that there's nothing that you can do and gosh, you got to just accept it. That is not what I'm saying. I'm saying that movement towards acceptance is going to build your own mental resilience. It's going to allow you to think more clearly. It's going to allow you to communicate more effectively. It's going to allow you to find more peace. And it's also going to give you the creativity to go back to list number 1 and look at, okay, what can I change and what can I control about this particular situation? It's going to allow you to go back to that particular list feeling more energized. Ultimately, I want you to remember that our mindset is a muscle. It's a muscle. The more we exercise the habits that build mental resilience, the more confidence we will experience. So it's something we want to put practices around. We want to certainly build these habits into our life. And ultimately, it builds over time and through experience. So the more that we build our mental resilience muscles, the more confidence we will experience. Guys, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. Again, my sincerest apologies about the video. I am going to try to sort this out right now. But if you have any questions, any comments at all, I want you to drop them into the comment box for me. And I would absolutely love to hear from you. All right, guys, have a great day.